Hi there. In this video, we're going to be creating our first Dataverse table. It's the locations table. And the purpose of this table is to allow us to know where the maintenance issue occurred. During the exercise, we're going to create a new locations table. We're going to add in columns. We're going to update the form associated with the table. We're going to update the views associated with the table, and then we're going to update the table icon. So let's head over to the exercise. I'm starting this exercise in the Power Up Learning Hub. I'm going to move to Start Experimenting, and this takes me to the environment with my name. But if it doesn't, I can select the selector in order to make a change to the environment I'm using. I'm going to select Solutions, and then I'm going to select on the School Maintenance Solution. In order to create the table, I'm going to select New, Table, and I'm going to select Table Advanced Properties, as this gives me full control over how the table has been created. I'm going to complete the table name. I'm also happy with the plural name that's been suggested. I'm going to enter a description. I'm going to suggest that it is a specific location within the organization. If I look at the advanced options, I can see that the schema name is going to be pp_location, and the pp comes from our publisher. I'm going to move on to the primary column. And instead of showing display name, I'm going to actually change this to be location name. I'm also going to make a change to the description, and I'm going to suggest that within this organization, the name of the location within the organization is something that can be specified. If I look at the advanced options, you'll see once again that the schema name is prefixed with pp. The column is required, and it's got a maximum character count of 850. But if we think that's too long, we can change that to a much smaller number, say 100. I'm going to move back to the properties for one final check. I'm happy with what I can see here. I'm going to select Save. There are a number of additional columns that we require for this table, so I'm going to select On Columns. And I can see that in addition to our location name column that we created, we also have a location ID column, as well as a number of standard columns that you'll see in all Dataverse tables, such as created by or modified on. The simplest way of filtering out the standard additional columns is to use the prefix associated with our publisher, which in our case is pp. I'm now going to add a number of additional columns. The first one will be a description column. I'm going to select New Column, as well as the column name of description. I'm also going to describe the column. So I'm going to enter in the description here and say what the purpose of this column is. Additional information about the location to help us understand more about it. I'm happy with the data type, format, behavior, but I'm going to make the requirement to be business required. That means in order for a record to be created, you must complete the description. I'm also going to select on the advanced options. And just in case we need more characters, I'm going to change the maximum character count to 200. I'm now happy with this column, and I'm going to select Save. And we now have a third column in this table prefixed with pp. We now need to add in two more columns into this table. Firstly, the floor number, and then also a location image. Select New Column. The display name needs to be floor number. And I've added a display name of floor number and a description of the number of the floor to which the location relates. But the data type is not correct for this. Let's change this single line of text. We'll change it to number, and we'll make it a whole number. We're also going to make this one required. As this is a numerical field, the advanced options will be different. We can see the minimum value can be a large negative number. I'm going to suggest the minimum number would be something like -4, and the maximum value would be 10. However, in most organizations, the minimum value would be 0 and the maximum might be something like 3. I'll do one last review of the column before I commit it. I'm happy with this, so I'm going to select Save. Our final column is our location image column. I'm going to new column. Display name will be location image. The description is an image of the location. I'm going to change the data type to be that of image. File, image. And if this was a table which had multiple images, we might wish to select primary image. I can take a look at advanced options, but I don't need to make any changes here. I'm going to select Save. And we now have a table with 4 custom columns in addition to our location ID column. We need to do a number of additional things in order to complete our table. First one of these is that we need to have a form associated with our table. I'm going to select the columns and then forms. I now have 3 forms to choose from. I'm going to choose the main information form. Select on this. I'm going to bring in my newly created fields. I'm going to bring on the description. I can drag it on. An alternative to this is by just simply selecting the floor number, and it will bring it into the next available space. I'm also going to drag in a location image. I'm going to drag in the owner of this record into the header area. And you may note at this stage that there is an asterisk next to location name, description, and floor number, and that indicates that these columns are required. I'm happy with my form. I can select Save and Publish. And we now have a form that is associated with this table. I'm going to select Back. And I'm going to select on the location table. I'm going to update the view associated with this table. A view is simply a tabular representation of the columns in our table, and we get to control features such as the order of the columns and also the column filtering and sorting. I can get to views by selecting views underneath data experiences, or I can select the location and then views in this area here. Select views. There are lots of views associated with this particular table. I'm going to select the active locations. I'm now going to bring in the description by selecting it, or the floor number by dragging it on. If I want to change the order of things, I can move them around. If I don't wish to see a particular column, I can select the drop down and I can remove it. As the description column may be wide, I'm actually going to make this a little larger. I'm happy with this view, so I'm going to select Save and Publish. And finally, let's select Back. I'm now going to select on location once more. I'm going to move on to the properties, because I'd like to have an image associated with this table whenever we use it in a model-driven app. Going to select on Properties, Advanced Options. I'm going to scroll down. And although I could choose a table image from the options available, I'm actually going to use a new image web resource. Select on this. Select Choose Image. Navigate to the folder in which you keep your resources for the PowerUp program and select Location SVG. Select it, then open. I'm going to add in a description, a location marker visible in the model-driven app, and then I can select Save. This means that the web resource has been created. I'm going to select Save again to make sure the changes have been made to the table. If we now look at the assets that are included within this solution and select All, we'll see that we have one table and we also have one web resource. And this completes the work for this exercise. So we've created the locations table. We know why we need it. It's so we know where the issues happen for our building maintenance. We've created columns, we updated the form, we updated the views, and we updated the table icon. In the next lesson, we're going to start building this app. I'll see you there.